Examination questions on trigonometry in 2 and 3 dimensions, grade 11. Examples of examination questions on problem solving in trigonometry, grade 11. Let's have a look at this question here from one past examination paper. A camera person is stationed at the top of a vertical tower TG, where TG is equal to H. She films a cat starting at point A. There is a cat at point A. I would call this cat Garfield. The cat is focused by the camera. Then the camera follows the cat as the cat walks towards B. So from point A to point B, the cat walked X, a distance of X meters. And as the camera follows the cat, it created an angle B, beta, that is indicated in the diagram as the angle of depression. That is the information we have. So for us to be able to answer a question, we must analyze the question, because sometimes you get information which is not shown in the diagram directly, but that information may be there. Now, from this question, we are given the angle of depression. If we have done some studies of the angle of depression, the angle of depression and the angle of elevation, they are formed by horizontal lines. And because they are formed by horizontal lines, it follows that the angles are equal to each other. So in this diagram, the line at the bottom here from G to A is a horizontal line, and the line up here is also a horizontal line. That means the lines are parallel to each other. Parallel lines create alternate angles, create corresponding angles, they create co-interior angles. In this particular case, we are mainly focusing on alternating angles, because the angle of depression and the angle of elevation, they are equal, they are alternating angles. That means at point A, there is an angle of theta degrees equal to theta, which is the angle of depression given. Now, using the same thinking, if you look at angle B1, the angle at B1 is also alternating with the angle of depression that is given. Follow the highlighting that I have made in green here. We notice that the alternating angle to B1 is the entire angle combining theta and beta together. So that means the value of B1 is equal to theta plus beta combined, because those angles are alternate angles. So the idea here is that the angle of depression and the angle of elevation, they are alternate angles, therefore they are equal to each other. Now, we have put in the information which was not directly there, but which was described in the question given. If you look at our diagram, there are even more angles that we are able to calculate if it becomes necessary. At B1 and B2, we have a straight line. So we can also find the value of angle B2 using angles in a straight line are supplementary. We know that angles on a straight line, they add up to 108 degrees. So that can allow us to also calculate the value of angle B2 if it's necessary in our calculations. So that is what we have. We can also find one of the remaining angles at point T there using the same ideas. We have now put in all the information that is needed to answer this question. Let's go on to what we need to do. Number one, the question is asking us to find the value of B1 in terms of theta and in terms of beta. We have already answered that one. The angle B1 is equal to theta plus beta. This is coming from alternating angles because the angle of depression and the angle of elevation are alternate angles. They are equal to each other. Then number two, we need to show the value we need to show that x is equal to h over h times sine b over the sine of theta plus beta times the sine of theta for 5 marks in question number 2. Now, where is x that we want to calculate? X is the line BA, which is a part of the triangle ABT. That's where x is. It's in triangle ABT. Now, look at the triangle ABT to determine the information there. We have all the angles and we have one side given. So for us now to be able to work this one, we may need to find another side so that we may have two sides and two angles, or we may have two sides and an included angle. That will help us because to apply the cosine formula, you must have two sides and included angle. To apply the sine formula, we need two sides and an angle, or an angle, two angles and one side. In this case, we want to find the value of BA. So we take BA as not given because that's what we want to calculate. If we remove this x, we remain with nothing else given in this triangle. So that means we need to find the length of one more side. Now, the only side that we are able to calculate in this diagram is the line from T to B, because line TB is a part of a right-angled triangle. According to the information provided, if you work with the angle B1, then the line TG becomes the opposite of the angle, and the line TB is the hypotenuse of the triangle. Now, opposite and hypotenuse means we can apply sine theta in solving the problem. So we're going to calculate the value of TB using trigonometric ratios. When we find the value of TB, then we are going to use the value of TB and the angles given in the triangle ABT to determine the value of BA. That is the question number 2. Then in the third question, determine the distance x that the cat walked from A to B. If the tower was 20 meters high, theta is 65 degrees, and B is equal to 37 degrees. Question number 3 is basically substitution. In the previous expression in question 2, we are going to substitute theta, beta, and h using the values that are given. Then we can calculate the value of x. That's what we need to do in this question. So once again, it is very much critical to make sure that you have an analysis of the diagram to determine the information you need to answer the question. Once you do that, it becomes way much easier to do the calculations because we have everything that you need to answer the question. So let's do the calculations and see what answers we produce from this. Let's go ahead and answer question 2. We have found out the value of angle A. Angle A is equal to theta. Alternating angles. We found the value of angle B1, and this was question 1. Actually, the value of angle B1, theta plus beta, also alternate angles, and therefore we can also express the value of angle B2 using the idea of angles on a straight line are supplementary. So B2 is equal to 180 minus theta plus beta. We want to show that x is equal to h sine b over the sine of theta plus b times sine theta, which basically means we must find the value of line BA in terms of theta and beta and so on. For us to be able to do that, if you look at our triangle where BA is. In triangle TBA, we have all three angles in the triangle, and we have one side given, which we want to find the side of BA. So we have three angles, and the sides are not given. So for us to work this one out, since we want to show BA, we need one of the sides to be given. We need the line from T to B or the line from T to A. One of those two lines must be there for us to be able to work out the value of BA since the angles are there. Now, out of the two lines, TB and the line TA, we are able to calculate the length of line TB because line TB is a part of a right-angled triangle, which is triangle TGB. In triangle TGB, we notice that according to the angle that is given, which is angle B1, the line TG is the opposite, and the line that we want to calculate TB is the hypotenuse of the triangle. So opposite and hypotenuse takes us to the sine of theta, which is the sine of theta plus beta. So the line of the sine of theta plus beta is equal to opposite, which is the line from T to G divided by the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is line from T to B. Then from here, we want to make TB the subject. So the sine of theta plus beta is equal to TG. TG is equal to H, and TB is what we are calculating. By cross multiplication, TB multiplied by the sine of theta plus beta is equal to H. Then from here, we divide both sides by the sine of theta plus beta. That will give us the value of TB in terms of theta, beta, and H. So TB is equal to H divided by the sine of theta plus beta. That is the value of TB. Now, after that calculation, we can now shift our attention and focus on triangle TBA. In triangle TBA, the sine of angle T in that triangle divided by line BA is equal to the sine of angle A divided by the line TB. This is the sine rule that we are expressing here. Then the sine of T is equal to the sine of beta divided by line BA, which is X. This is equal to the sine of angle A, which is the sine of theta, divided by TB. And the TB is a fraction, and that's H, divided by the sine of theta plus beta. Now in this expression, we need to make X the subject of the formula. By cross multiplication, X multiplied by the sine of theta is equal to the denominator here times sine B. So it's going to be the sine of B multiplied by H divided by the sine of theta plus beta. Then we simplify this expression. So basically, X multiplied by the sine of theta is equal to H times the sine of B divided by the sine of theta plus beta. Then to complete our answer, we divide both sides uh, by sine theta. So dividing both sides by sine theta is the same as multiplying both sides by 1 over sine theta. So this will allow us to get rid of sine theta here. We come to this side, we also multiply by 1 over sine theta. Now we have got x on the left is equal to h multiplied by the sine of beta divided by the sine of theta plus beta multiplied by the sine of theta. Then our question is answered. We have shown that x is equal to h times sine beta divided by sine theta plus beta multiplied by sine theta. So the calculations are a bit tricky, but they are not difficult. You need an amount of practice for you to be able to be in a position where you can do this smoothly. That's trigonometry in 2 and 3 dimensions, grade 11. The last question is basically substitution. We know that from question 2, the distance traveled by the cat is equal to x, and x is given in terms of sine theta plus beta, sine theta, sine beta, and h. So to determine the numerical value of the distance, we need to do substitution. So 20 meters is the height of the tower, so that is h, which means x is equal to 20 multiplied by the sine of b, which is 37 degrees, divided by the sine of theta plus b, which is 65 degrees, plus 37. Remember brackets here, multiplied by the sine of theta, which is equal to the sine of 65 degrees. Then using a calculator, we can simply plug all this in the calculator and find the answer. So the distance traveled by the cat, which is x, is equal to 13.5858 meters. Then the question has been answered. So that is basically about it. Important when you're answering this kind of questions is to make sure that the information is put in the diagram. Make sure you've got everything that you need, because sometimes you get information which is given directly, and then there is information which is given indirectly. So if you don't get the information which is given indirectly, you will definitely get stuck somewhere along the line, because it will be like answering a question without enough information. In this question, also be reminded of the angle of elevation and the angles of depression. They are alternate angles because they are formed by horizontal lines. Horizontal lines are parallel lines, and therefore they may form alternating angles. So we have answered the whole question for 8 marks. This is grade 11, trigonometry in 2 and 3 dimensions. It needs a little bit of some practice to be in a position where you can be able to do it faster. But otherwise, yes, we expect this in our mathematics paper 2 examination under the trigonometry section.